message to the world of what the nation of Tibet and what His Holiness the Dalai Lama means to Tibetans. The media, the world, kept quiet about it. Now, Tibetans are always considered as being kind, passionate, compassionate, and peace-loving people. But we also have our limits. We've been tested over and over and over in these 64 years. We prayed, we forgave. We prayed, we forgave. Because we follow the teachings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, of non-violence, of forgiveness, of peace. We've reached our breaking point. When they came for everything that means to us, for the very person that built everything that we have today, we've reached our breaking point. No more testing. Tibetans and Buddhists all across the world are coming out and saying that enough is enough. We are done. We will still be peaceful, but we'll be out there. We will shout. We will be out in the street, and we will tell the world about what the reality is and what the truth is. When they came for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, they didn't just come for His Holiness. They came for everything that he represents. The Tibetan culture, the Tibetan identity, the Tibetan religion, the Tibetan history. And when I say they, I'm talking about the Chinese government. Before we talk about the Chinese government, I just wanted to ask you all to look around. Look at each of you. This is what unity is. This is what a united Tibetan front looks like in Minnesota and across the world. Because when they came for His Holiness, they came for the very essence of what makes us a Tibetan. And every Tibetan rose together and said, we will fight this united and together. We have a whole new generation of young Tibetans who are now activists, who are stronger, more empowered, and who have more faith, love, and loyalty to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And that is what the Chinese government does not recognize. Over 160 Tibetans self-immolated. Tibet being disseminated, our history being destroyed, our religion being destroyed. Tibetan monks, nuns, our monasteries turned into concentration camps. 1 million Tibetan children moved into re-education camps so that their identity, their history, and their religion and their language could be erased. Tibetans are still being tested. And the world keeps watching. As we talk about new generation of activists, we also know that the Chinese government spent billions of dollars to start a cyber war. To start a cyber war attacking His Holiness, our movement, and our people. It's $1 billion. But how did we face them back? Based on our faith, our love, and we are winning. We are winning that message. We are winning and changing the narrative of what they put on His Holiness. The Chinese has been following this movement and His Holiness for 64 years. So don't tell me that they have not found anything on His Holiness in this past 64 years. They have waited for this opportunity and they are making the best out of it. And they gave Him a label that is the worst in humankind. The worst that any human being could have. That is the label they gave His Holiness. So we are done being tested. We will change the narrative. We are changing the narrative. Today, the Chinese government is responding to our narrative. We did not spend billions of dollars for this. We were armed with our truth. We were armed with our faith. We were armed with our love for His Holiness. And that is what the Chinese don't have. They may have more money. They have more people. They have more power. But they don't have His Holiness. And they came for Him. It also begs us to remember what the Chinese government means to our brethren, our siblings in Tibet. What does the Chinese government mean? His Holiness for 64 years has tried in every way to have dialogues, being in peace. They called him all kinds of names. But yet, His Holiness restored in peace with a smile, trying to build dialogue and some level of understanding with the Chinese government. And what do? They label him with the worst name any human beings can have. So the question we beg is it worth being with this Chinese government? Is it worth that they are taking our children away? They are slamming, disparaging His Holiness the Dalai Lama's name. Is it worth sitting and talking to this Chinese government? It begs for us to reason and question. To the rest of the world, people who are concerned about the boy, within Tibetan communities, yes, we do not condone child abuse. We do not support it and we oppose it. There have been stories of and many incidents of powerful people and religious institutes abusing children. But His Holiness's warmth, love, a cultural prank, a grandfatherly affection to this boy should never be compared to that. And I ask the world, watch the complete video. Don't make your decision based on an 8 to a 20-second cleverly edited clip against someone who has 87 years of righteousness, who's lived 87 years as a celibate monk, who doesn't understand your cultural shifts, who doesn't understand what your culture is. Watch the full video before you make a judgment. You will see that the boy and the mother were very happy. In fact, they said it was the best day of their life, getting an audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Listen to that. It's been over 7 weeks. The boy has not complained. The mother has not complained. 120 people and the dignitaries who were there have not complained. So why is this media and the rest of the world so concerned about this? People have been swayed by a very persuasive, a very disparaging, and offensive narrative that's been laid by the Chinese government. If the world can take a moment to think, to do their research before they make their decisions, we would not be here. We would not be here, but we are here. So while we are here, we want to tell the world about what's happening in Tibet. We want to tell the world how the Chinese government has been forcing His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama to reincarnate so that they can choose the 15th Dalai Lama. An atheist government. We can tell them that His Holiness the Panchen Lama has disappeared and today he's 34 years old and still is the youngest political prisoner in the world since he was 6 years old. We can tell the world about the self-immolations. We can tell the world how Tibet is being destroyed, how our people are rapidly being erased in their own country. When we talk about culture, it's important to understand that everyone brings their own identity, their customs, their values from their ancestors and their history. We bring ours. And we are making a point to educate the rest of the world about our culture, about our history. If you cannot understand our culture, you should not force your culture on us. If you do not see the purity and know the difference between love and lust, you should clean your own lenses before you pass judgment on what happened. So the rest of the world really needs to reflect on their own beings before they point fingers at us and before they point fingers at His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The media, I can talk about the media on and on, but media runs on TRP. They run on TRP. They make the money based on shock values. They make the money based on shifting incidents. So they used this 8 to 20-second clip to gain more publicity across the world. And today, they moved on to some of the news. Those social media influencers made comments and they moved on to other things. We can't move on. This is where we are standing. We are traumatized. We are horrified by what happened. You do not expect us to move on. We will probably move on once the media comes out and apologizes for the mistakes they made. Once people who made all those comments come out and apologize to His Holiness, then we could consider moving on. Because we've been there before. We have seen how the world reacts when we are in pain. We are not a hashtag. Tibet is not a hashtag. It are people. 6 million people in this country who are suffering right now. Those people are not hashtags. Finally, my appeal to our own siblings in exile. We have a responsibility. A responsibility with each other. A responsibility to our future generation. A responsibility to our siblings in Tibet. And most importantly, a responsibility to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Our responsibility is based on how we move forward as a community. We are all hurt. We are in pain. But how do we heal? We've seen the unity of our people. That unity needs to go forward because we know that the Chinese government's cyber attack isn't the first and it won't be the last. We need to be prepared for more of these because this time we failed His Holiness. We failed him. We failed him by our own incompetence. We cannot repeat this again. We need to stand united. No more Choga Cholo. No more difference between Kitu and Chokpas. United as Tibetans. If we do that, nobody, nothing can attack us. My appeal to every Tibetan in the world living in exile is go back, look at yourself as a Tibetan. The blood that flows in you, our ancestors' blood that flows on you, demands that we stand together, demands that we make a movement out of this, demands that we rise up when they had come for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. This is not an expectation, this is a responsibility. And each one of us will come through with this responsibility together as Tibetans. Because they did not attack one Kidu, one Tsokpa, one Choga. They attack every Tibetan in this world. And that's why I say, when they come for His Holiness, like they did in 1959, every Tibetan stepped out outside the Potala Palace and sacrificed themselves till the streets were filled with blood. We will once again show the world and show China that if they come for His Holiness, they will have to come through. All of us as Tibetans, united, standing strong. Pagalo! Pagalo! Pagalo!
White Khada movement